Hi everyone, I'm Hasini Kure. So this is my first video which I wish to publish on my page HMC Legal Academy. Now I thought I will first of all deal with the criminal law of UK because criminal law is a very interesting subject. Now before you move further into areas of criminal law such as homicide, rape, offences against property, etc., it is essential for you to know the basics of criminal law. Just like a building needs a proper foundation for it to last for long, it is essential for you to lay down the foundation of criminal law properly. That is why I thought I will deal with the basics of criminal law, which is the ingredients of an offence. Now, before we proceed further, I wish to bring to your attention that there are two main parties to a criminal trial. Now, when dealing with the parties to a criminal trial, first of all, we have the prosecution representing the victim. So a criminal trial starts with the prosecution establishing an offence. Then the burden shifts to the defence, which is the party representing the defendant. Now, before we move on to the ingredients of an offence per se, there's another thing which I want to mention. That is, let's see how to identify the parties by the case name. Now, here for example, I have the case of R versus Smith. Now, it is a usual feature in criminal law cases where it starts with R versus. Now R in this context stands for Rex or Regina, meaning the king or queen, meaning the state. Now in this case, for example, the defendant is Smith. So you can see R is a reference to the prosecution. Smith is a reference to the defendant. So R, the state, is taking action against Smith, the defendant. So I'm sure you're clear as to how to identify the parties of a criminal case now. Okay, now we will move on to the ingredients of an offence per se. Now I'm sure all of you know how to bake a cake. Now in baking a cake, there are several ingredients that we need. For example, flour, butter, sugar, etc. Now the task for the prosecution is also to bake a cake, meaning the prosecution has to establish an offence using the ingredients of an offence. Now, even though there are many ingredients to bake a cake, when it comes to the ingredients necessary to establish an offence, there are two main ingredients which the prosecution must prove. They are, as you can see, the actus reus and the mens rea. Now, actus reus is a reference to the physical element of an offence, whereas the mens rea is a reference to the mental element of an offence. Now, an actus reus simply means a wrongful conduct. So, the prosecution has to start a criminal trial by establishing that the defendant has committed the actus reus of an offence. Now, a wrongful conduct can either be an act or an omission. An act is a conscious, voluntary movement of a muscle. Now, for example, if we take the offense of murder, if the defendant uses a knife to stab the victim, thereby causing the death of the victim, then the wrongful conduct is committed through an act because it is a conscious, voluntary movement of a muscle. On the other hand, we have an omission, which is a reference to a failure to act, or in other words, not doing something which a person is supposed to do or which he is under legal duty to do. Now, for example, let's say a patient is a critically ill patient is taken to hospital and a doctor fails to attend to this patient, saying that he is busy or he has to go out for lunch, etc. And then this results in the death of the patient. Now, that would be an example where murder would be committed by way of an omission. So, the actus reus of an offence can be established either through an act or by an omission, which means a wrongful conduct. Now, even when baking a cake, several ingredients go first. Similarly here, when the prosecution is establishing an offence, the prosecution has to first establish the actus reus and then move on to the mens rea. Now, the mens rea is a reference to the guilty mind of the defendant. Now, this may be denoted by certain mens rea elements such as intention or recklessness. Now, I'm sure you would have heard of people saying, I feel like killing that person. Now, that would be a reference to the mens rea or the guilty mind. But why in such a situation, a person will not be arrested or convicted? Because he hasn't committed the actus reus. So the actus reus must be committed along with the requisite mens rea, meaning both these ingredients are necessary for the prosecution to establish an offence. So that is why there is another concept called coincidence of actus reus and mens rea, meaning both actus reus and mens rea must coincide. They must be part and parcel of the same transaction in order for the prosecution to constitute an offence. Now, even when baking a cake, there is no point in the ingredients being there. The ingredients must be mixed together, and then only it will result in a cake. So likewise. Now, if we put it into a formula, it is actus reus plus mens rea equals an offence. Now, I would also like to bring to your attention a very famous Latin maxim, which is actus non facit reum nisi mens sit rea, which means that a defendant cannot be convicted unless he is blameworthy, meaning he cannot be convicted merely for committing the actus reus. There has to be the requisite mens rea present as well. So this maxim shows that both actus reus and mens rea are needed in order to constitute an offence. So I'm sure you're clear as to the two main ingredients of an offence, which is the actus reus and the mens rea, which should be established by the prosecution. So if there are any queries, please feel free to contact me. And please subscribe my YouTube channel. And I will meet you all again soon with another video. Thank you everyone.